Seattle, I believe. Good morning to you, Michelle.
Good morning, Gretchen.
Hey, Michelle, I'm sure you've been watching. The White House has made it pretty clear that with this coming looming sequester, life as we know it on Earth will soon come to an end. And what they're not saying, though, is that the sequester was the invention of the President of the United States, who he was for it before, now he's against it. Apparently, but when you look at the amount of the budget, it's actually going to impact. It's just, what, 2.4%, and the president could end it all if he wanted to today.
The ball is in his court. He isn't just some hostage to these horrible designs of the Republican Party. No, he's the author of this mess that we're in now, of course. And this really should be an object lesson for every parent out there. Have your kids watch this Chicken Little theater. I mean, we've got this Chicken Little in chief running around talking about how this is a fiscal apocalypse, when in fact, as you pointed out, Steve, $85 billion in cuts. And of course, I've been pointing out that cuts should always be in those ghost quotes, and you should say it with the most dripping amount of sarcasm possible, because when we talk about cuts defined by Washington, it's merely cuts in the rate of growth, and this is not how responsible adults should act. In any case, all of the apocalypse that he keeps talking about, layoffs and more unemployment and people not getting paid, well, what kind of situation do you think we have now, and who's responsible for the layoffs and the cuts in R&D and all of the fiscal disaster that we're already seeing despite sequestration?
Yeah, here's Senator Max Baucus. One thing I've always thought is that where are the other Democrats? I didn't even know what they're for the president, behind the president. You don't hear anything. Here's Senator Baucus, and I'm sure the president wasn't happy to hear this.
The president is part of the sequester. I mean, the White House recommended it, frankly, back in August 2011. And so now we're feeling the effects of it. Now, I don't want to say the president is solely to blame. He's not. It's both the president and Congress.
The White House recommended it, frankly.
Oops.
He's in trouble.
Yeah, momentary lapse of candor there from Senator Baucus, and I think that Brian asked the right question, but it's half of the question, because where are these Democrats? They're hiding, they're under their desks, hoping nobody else has to make the admission that Senator Baucus did. But I think that there is a huge missed opportunity for the Republicans. Where is Paul Ryan? I mean, he used to be the great educator on all matters fiscal, and the real problem here, which is the entitlement crisis, and you just don't really see them in front of the cameras.
That's what we were talking about earlier, is that these cuts are paltry compared to what many people in this nation believe needs to happen, which is entitlement reform. And you bring up a great point about where are some of these Republicans. Are they still getting lost in the shuffle, in this messaging game? Because keep in mind, the president won the messaging game before the end of the year with regard to taxes. The Republicans had to acquiesce on that. Taxes went up. Now he's using the same messaging to go up against the Republicans with the same simple message to the American people. Is he going to win, or are the Republicans going to step up?
Well, I hope they're listening. Some of them are probably in green rooms somewhere, and they do need to get out there. And it can't just be in front of these cameras, of course. It's not just cable news where they need to take their message. They need to follow the footsteps of the likes of Michelle Obama, who goes on every entertainment show, and they need to force themselves onto the rosters of these late-night comedy shows and other venues where young people especially need to be educated.
Sure. I think John Boehner should go on Red Eye tonight, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, there you go. Book him.
That's alternative thinking. But Michelle, and we've talked about this before, the President of the United States has a very compliant mainstream media. So, you know, if his message is getting out there, it's thanks to the people in the press corps who are taking pretty much exactly what he's saying, putting it out there. You hardly ever hear anybody in the mainstream media say, did you realize the President of the United States invented the sequester? He was for it before he was against it?
Yeah, well, spread the word. There are alternate ways to do this, social media. They need to use YouTube and Facebook and really get out to non-traditional constituencies, because, of course, these are the people who will bear the most of the burden in decades to come. Everyone talks about saving the children, and really, what is this sequestration theater all about? It's about screwing the children, and they need to say it over and over and over again.
Let's talk about the debate commission. They came out, the Republican, one of them on that commission, came out yesterday and said that he believed it was a mistake to have selected anchor Candy Crowley to moderate one of the 2012 presidential debates. Of course, there was some controversy involved in that debate when she interjected, many people felt on behalf of the president, with regard to whether or not Benghazi, whether or not he had called it a terror attack or not in the Rose Garden. Probably the most memorable moment of the debate. Many people think it was a game changer to a certain extent. What do you think about this member of the debate commission now, though, saying that she was a mistake? Should they come out and say that post-game?
Well, this was Frank Fahrenkopf, who apparently had a lecture to a conservative group and finally came out with this admission of the gobsmackingly obvious. I think the larger problem isn't necessarily who this commission picks every year. As I've said before, and we talked about this on the show during the campaign and election season, this is a Republican Party problem because election cycle after election cycle, these people continue to sign on to a stacked deck. And then they act shocked when the obvious happens. And you know, the fact that these liberal media panelists who pose as objective then run cover for the likes of Barack Obama and the Democratic Party, I mean, it's insanity to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And I think the next election cycle, what the Republican Party really needs to do is find a new venue.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think they should. I'd like to see Brett Baer in there, Britt Hume in there, or someone like that. That would be an interesting. I don't know.
Or maybe
why.
over on Al Jazeera.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about Al Jazeera. They're going to have an expanding presence in America. They bought the current TV for $500 million, we know, from Al Gore, and now they're expanding bureaus and reach, and they want to get penetration. What do you think's happening there? What are they trying to do in Al Jazeera, USA?
Well, I think the American Spectator put it very well. This is a $500 million Trojan Horse for terror TV. And just along with the rest of the domestic liberal media, Al Jazeera is going to put on a mask of objectivity. They're hiring so-called investigative reporters now at all of these bureaus, and they're going to have an expansive reach into American homes. And I think it's incumbent upon those of us who are very familiar with how Al Jazeera abroad has cheerleaded for terror that has taken American lives, that they know who these people side with.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see exactly when you turn it on what it'll feel like. I mean, will it feel like the Al Jazeera that you watch over in the Middle East, or will it just be some homogenized thing that has a very subtle message?
Yeah, well, I think like I said, they'll have the pretense of objectivity and neutrality, but inevitably the mask will slip, and we can all put on our shocked faces when it does.
And they're also trying to expand their reach in sports, especially with buying U.S. rights to U.S. soccer. Wow. It's fascinating to see what's happening right now. Michelle Malkin, always great to talk to you. We can find you on twitchy.com, right?
And, and Michelle Malkin on a sled today.
Good for you. All right, have fun, and we'll check back in with you next week.